the head of the building committee at my congregation and the flat roof, which if you see it, and there are a number of people here who have, it's pretty far away. There are no actual abutters. We put the beehives up. It never occurred to me, honestly, I apologize, it didn't occur to me that anyone would be other than grateful that we had brought these bees into the neighborhood. When I did hear from some neighbors, they were concerned. Swarms are not actually dangerous. Bees don't have the capacity to sting when they're swarming because their stomachs are filled with honey, but there are people who are much more professional about bees than I am, and they can speak to that. They were concerned. I called every single person. I offered honey to every person. I did everything I could to create an opportunity for people to share their concerns. I said, when we harvest the honey, I would like to give you some. I did everything I knew to do. I think a postponement in a public hearing is a great idea. I didn't think of it. I'm sorry that it didn't occur to me as an option. The last thing in the world I would want to do is alienate my neighbors. The first letter you read was from a next door neighbor who we've had a property dispute with that neighbor, and that may have influenced his letter. I will say that one day we harvested the honey, and I left the material that we had used over near his property edge. I wasn't aware that bees would go there. He called to tell us they had. I immediately removed everything that was there, immediately. I was totally responsive. So I just want, for the record, I don't want the record to show that we were unresponsive. It's very important to me that everyone knows that we want the neighborhood to benefit from these bees. Our children have benefited, the congregation has benefited. I'm going to give you honey, you're going to take it home, it's going to be delicious, you're going to love it. Some of you here already have. I called Mr. Goss because I heard he was concerned, and I'm sure Mr. Goss will admit he was not in a good mood when I called him, and he did hang up on me. I wanted to discuss. I think it's important for this to be heard by this community. I will gratefully ask for an opportunity to have a public hearing so that we can talk about whether or not these bees are a good idea for Cambridge. I will tell you that the bees have gone to sleep for the winter. They're all safe in their hives, staying warm. We're not going to see any bees out for months and months to come, and that should give us plenty of time to talk about whether or not it's a good idea for our neighborhood.
Thank you, by the way. And I want to make it clear that no one is suggesting you acted in bad faith. I'm sure you acted with utmost good intentions. But what I was suggesting, I still would suggest, I've heard from my fellow board members whether they agree with me, but I suggest that you have a hall at the school and to have a meeting, the public hearing for public meeting at that hall, after sending out invitations to the neighborhood, however you want to define it. And maybe if you can even get something out to the community at large, so other people who might have a view one way or another to attend.
I think it's a great idea. And
have a dialogue. What I'm hoping you would come to, is some sort of resolution that, well, I don't want to judge the case, but that would cause the claimant to withdraw their objection.
That would be great.
If that's the case, then we're back to where I started, is that we only enforce our zoning by complaint.
That would be terrific. I would be delighted, and I'm sorry that it came to this. That was my hope when I called Mr. Goss and all the others, was that we could get on the same page about the benefits of these bees.
This is a tough time. We're going into a tough time of year, holiday season for everybody. But what I'm going to suggest is we continue this case until January 8th, which is our first meeting in January, which is 6 weeks from now. And during that time, you take whatever steps necessary to have this public meeting or meetings, if more than one is necessary, to see what can be done. If in fact, on January 8th, we're back exactly where we are today, the neighbors are insist we should not grant you the relief you're seeking, and you want to pursue the relief you're seeking, we'll make a decision on the case at that time. But again, I'm going to remind everybody, you in particular, this is a narrow zoning issue. It's not about how tasteful honey is. It's not about the need for bees. We do have, I'm speaking for myself, within our environment. It's about what our zoning ordinance allows and doesn't allow. And to the extent that it does not allow, and I'm not prejudging the case by any means, it says we decide it does not allow you to continue bees. You have other alternatives. The right alternative, which is to go to the city council and get an ordinance adopted that deals with bees, allows them subject to whatever restrictions. Somerville has it, Newton has it, and I'm sure many other communities around the council. That's the real answer. We don't have, this is the benefit of the audience, not for you, so you know, we don't have the ability to do what we want with zoning. We don't rewrite the zoning ordinance every time we have a hearing. We interpret what is given to us by the city council. And the issue you've heard is the city council has not allowed bees. There's nothing in the ordinance that deals with bees. And it is the position of the Special Services Department that section 4.13 means, therefore, you can't have the bees. Now, we haven't decided that yet. Let me just finish. We haven't decided it, but that's the narrow zoning issue. And that's the only issue we're going to be dealing with when we get to the state.
So you can just help me on one piece. And I'm not a lawyer and you are. And I know that bees are not mentioned in any of the zoning issues, not mentioned. Right. It was my understanding that if something is for educational purposes, that the zoning, no, that as a limited, narrow, within the ordinance that you cited, that there is an exception for educational purposes. Is that?
Oh, there are all kinds of exceptions, but uses. Educational uses are dealt with, and then what you can do. But it is just general, like colleges and universities. It's not an activity where there's an educational adjunct, and that's what we're talking about here. Frankly, the purpose of the use of these premises is not to run a beehive. It's to provide
educate children.
And this is an adjunct, just like Globe or Max or whatever, or microscopes. And that would be the issue. If you want to raise it, we get to that. That can be our one of our future debates, but not tonight.
So we'll be happy to hold that meeting, and hopefully we can resolve this amicably with our neighbors. That would be great.
Let me ask the members of the board. I've been shooting my mouth off so far. The members of the board feel differently? What's your view on it?
I agree.
Now we have, if we do continue, one second, if we do continue the case to January 8th, which I'm going to suggest, we have to have the same 5 members here. Can everybody make January 8th? You can count, I know I can. Okay. All right, now, before I get to the motion, sir, you have your hand up?
Yes.
You're going to have to come forward.
Sure.
I'll relinquish my seat.
I was wondering if I can get a couple of minutes of time, as I'm a physician, Robert mentioned, and I have some personal experience of treating patients with bees.
So that's not relevant right now. We're going to continue the case, we're going to make those points at the public hearing and a half, or if we come back in January 8th, we're going to continue the case and then speak then.
Sure.
Oh, no problem. You're premature at this point.
Okay, sure. I want
Thank
you
you
to
for
take
taking
this
this
as
down.
Okay, I need your name, please.
Dr. Vipul Chitalia.
Yeah, spell it.
Vipul Chitaliak.
Thank you very much. There's another hand up right next to you. I don't know. Okay, the chair moves. Should we continue further? We have a motion.
I wanted to thank you for your attention, time, and looking forward to seeing you. And
I'm not looking forward to seeing you. I'm hoping that this so that we don't have to have
I've been spurred by it.
Anyway, the chair moves that this case be continued as a case heard until 7 p.m. on, it'll be 7 p.m., not 7:30, 7:45, 7 p.m. on January 8th, on the condition that the petitioner signs a waiver of time. We need a waiver of time for decision? Yes. As you know, by law, we have to decide. The waiver, we have people regularly sign a waiver of time for decision that allows us to, there's no
between now and then.
If there were, would be pushing for the continuance, but my understanding is, of course, the rabbi who knows better than me, is that there's no bee activity skiing at the time. So, on the condition that the petitioner sign a waiver of final decision, all those in favor, and, we're looking for a vote. Sean, I'm going to ask that you contact your neighbor, complaint, that who's not here tonight, some of the neighbors are, and advise them that we have urged the petitioner to have this public hearing, and we in turn urge this petitioner, this neighbor to attend that hearing, and to hear, be part of an exchange of views to see if an amicable resolution can be made. In which case, it is, and the enforcement order will be withdrawn, and we'll go back to like every other beekeeper in the city where nobody complains, nothing's being done. Okay, so anyway, now it's time for the vote. So January 8th, 7 p.m. All those in favor say aye. Aye, in favor.
Thank you.